You're listening to the Third Degree Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Mandy Petrie and Brian J. Hatcher.
Greeting, friends, and welcome to 2026. We're all a year older. Well, most of us are.
Yes. Yeah, we are. You and I.
Yes, we've both had birthdays recently. So 2026 we're ready to get started with it. And I thought that for the first of the Third Degree podcast for 2026, we could talk about yet another rabbit hole that I found myself falling into.
Okay.
So, and it started with something that I saw online about how Gen Zs and some Gen Alphas are not having sex as much as people used to. That there is a decline in sexual activity for the younger generation, which made me start to think, well, is that true? I wondered.
Declining in population, is that because people are choosing not to procreate? Kids are expensive and kids are jerks. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they are jerks. Several of our friends have children and I love them. They're jerks. It's not even for a year. And it's like the worst game of charades and nobody ever.
Well, to be fair, I didn't talk for 3 years. So,
Yes, see?
yeah,
Right?
I guess I just didn't have anything to say. I started to do some research on this because, first of all, I wanted to verify that was true. Figures don't lie, but liars figure. There's also this tendency to take data and apply a meaning to it that may have nothing to do with it. There's this connotation to the idea that if the younger generation isn't engaged in sexual activity as much as the older generations, the reason for that is cynicism or the internet or for whatever reason. Look at the numbers. That proves that my idea of why this happens is completely true. But
When there's no peer-reviewed
exactly, it's
anything, yes.
Yeah. I flick a light switch and the lights come on, which proves without a shadow of a doubt that there are fairies that live in light bulbs that hate the sound of clicking switches and start glowing. You turn on a switch, see what happens, right? I wanted to do some research on this because, first of all, I wanted to see, well, is that the case? But also, if it is the case, what's the actual reasoning behind it? I started going down a whole bunch of rabbit holes. Can you imagine?
Not a bit. No. Has there been research done about it? We know this is true. The younger generations are having less sex. We do know that's true.
To some degree. And depending upon the peer-reviewed papers on this subject or tangential subjects that relate to this, it gives you a different view on what's going on. It's a complicated subject.
Of course.
So it's not really tied into, like, say, there's one thing definitely that's happening. There are mitigated circumstances involved. I mean, there's a myriad of different things going on. But also we have to look at, when you study this type of thing, there's already a bias to it. There is a viewpoint that people immediately dip into these studies, which is the idea that people deciding not to have sex is bad. This is a problem. How do we fix this?
Oh, yeah.
No change is needed.
I don't see it as a bad thing at all.
And
Less STDs and STIs, less unwanted pregnancies. Now pregnancies will be, very much wanted. Any pregnancies that do happen, and any pregnancies that didn't, that were unexpected could be, I don't know, outsourced to someone who does want them, could be planned. So
historically speaking, women in the Western world gained a lot of their autonomy and freedom and rights directly because of birth control.
yes, absolutely.
There was a time when a woman got pregnant, she was just pregnant, barring some sort of catastrophe that would wind up putting her life in danger. Once she got pregnant, that was it. Nature takes its course. She's going to have that kid. And especially with Western culture and the idea of the stay-at-home mother, that was what was expected.
Right.
And it carried to the West as well. It carried throughout the West. It also became a part of some modern Eastern culture. There was this understanding in Japan that a woman had the right to do whatever she wanted. She could be a CEO of a company. She could have her autonomy, but the moment she got pregnant, she was immediately lifted out of her situation and dropped into the 50s United States. She had to quit her job and become a stay-at-home mother. That was basically the rules.
Yes, and fairly recently in history, they biased intake tests geared toward males for medical schools because if a woman became a doctor, eventually she was going to get married and have a baby, and they would lose that doctor. So they only needed men doctors. That absolutely happened.
Oh, yeah.
It's been admitted. There's one creator that you and I have been in one of his viral videos. Justin Nunley. He mentioned did you know that there are 3 times as many men as there are women in China? Boy, the comments said one-child policy, and it was a big deal to have a male heir. Now they don't have women. It wasn't because there weren't girl babies being born. Let you draw your own conclusions about what was happening to the children there. Now they have a real problem that they don't have enough women for men to marry, which they have repealed that policy. I think it's a 2-child policy, and if I'm wrong, forgive me. Maybe someone can correct us in the comments or something. But yes, I mean, pregnancy it has been such, while being celebrated for the miracle that it is also used to oppress and to look down upon women. The book and the movie Night Bitch, if you've seen it yet. Have you seen it yet?
No,
Oh,
I
it's
haven't seen it.
fantastic. Amy Adams. She's a new mother, and at one point, she looks at her other mother friends and she says, the way they treat us, it's because they don't want us to realize that we're gods. We make life. And women have really been oppressed with childbirth. Women are vital to life itself.
And of course, with this idea that, and not to go down a political rabbit hole, but with the tides turning a little bit in this idea of taking birth control away from women, restricting them, limiting education, there's this real sense of going backwards and losing ground. There, again, the idea of sexual relationships going down and people panicking about it. You have Elon Musk saying that we need to have as many kids as possible. If Elon Musk had his way, everybody would have families of dozens of kids. At the same time, keep in mind that in modern society, as compared to pre-industrial agricultural societies, people would have a bunch of kids and those kids would work on the farm as well.
Yes.
Now you're in a situation where parents have children, they spend 18 years building them up and then send them out into the world for them to work in factories and office buildings for other people to make money off of them.
Yes.
Having an industrialist say we need to have more kids really translates into we need to have more workers.
Yes.
So at the same time, I really feel like, especially with a lot of the research and reading I've been doing, that the whole idea of people not having as much sex as they used to is part of a bigger thing. When people talk about this, what they're really saying is people are not having as much sex as we think they should be. People should be having more sex. And why is that not happening? Part of it gets laid at the feet of those damn women who wanted to vote.
Oh,
Now they're being picky. Men don't have the choices that they used to, and they don't have the opportunities they used to have. And yes, I'm an old guy, but I'm not about to say things were better in the old days, because they were not.
No.
They were, most of the women who were in relationships and marriages were there because they didn't really have a choice, and they basically, everyone had to get married.
Yes.
With the rules.
It just
You did it. And if you were in a bad or abusive relationship, you didn't get a divorce. I don't see how much better that is. But part of this worry about the situation is the good chunk of young men up to their 30s have never asked a woman out on a date. What's going on here? There's all this discussion about how bad it is that men aren't really dating. It's a terrible thing because, first of all, how else are men supposed to determine how good they are? How do you measure yourself in the hierarchy? You have the good job and the trophy wife.
Yep.
And because women are choosy and supposedly going for that high valued male, a small group of men have all the women, and most guys have no opportunity of being in a male-female relationship. There are some people out there, I won't say the name, but a certain motivational psychiatrist who's written a few books is so dismayed about this situation that he has literally broken down into tears over it and has said things like forced monogamy, that we need to thin this thing down where you don't have a handful of guys with all these women around them, that they have to pick one, and then everybody who's left, they got to go elsewhere. I'm wondering how that works. Are we going to make this a law or something?
Yeah.
But you have that as a situation where it's like, well, because women have choices and we've opened up relationships to a bunch of other configurations, male, male, female, female, polyamory, and on. And once we got away from the monogamous, you have to get married situation, everything's gone to hell in a handbasket. So now we've got to fix that. Besides the fact that, yes, women were in a situation very much akin to indentured servitude.
Yeah.
And even to this day, if you look at the statistics, the greatest danger that a woman faces, the one person more likely to do her harm,
An intimate partner. Yes.
a husband.
Yes. The most dangerous person to a pregnant woman is her intimate partner. No danger from her pregnancy. It's not danger from an outsider. It is danger from her intimate partner.
Yeah. And on the other side of this, on the guy's side of this, there is this narrative that's going on right now, this idea that men with access to women become dangerous. You have this idea of the incel. You have this idea of the person who resorts to violence because they don't have, because of this, it's known as the loneliness epidemic that's going on right now. This idea that men do not have companionship and it's forcing them to go into more violent behavior. I understand the biological side of some of this, but what I find a little bit disturbing is that when I see discussion about this loneliness epidemic, I see a lot of these conversations being directed to women. And I'm like, okay, what exactly are you saying when you look at a woman and say, well, men are going through this, they're having issues with loneliness and they need to be having more sex?
To me.
Well, Mandy, you need to pop a titty so that I don't shoot up a school. What's that about? I'm not exactly sure what women are supposed to do about this situation, except, I guess, make some sort of sacrifice, maybe. Thank you for your service.
I mean, if that is, there are sex workers out there.
Well, and here's the other thing about
if
that.
That's the only problem.
Yeah.
If that's what they're claiming the only problem is, it's the oldest profession in the world. You can pay for it.
Well, I guess part of that argument is it's not just sex, it's also the relationship aspect of it. A close relationship with people is a part of it as well. And that's the other thing they tie into the danger of not having relationships with other people, is that now you're taking it online. People have been using AI chatbots to be their girlfriend. And something
they
else.
have real dolls. Lars and the Real Girl. There was a whole movie about it. I've seen men on TV with harems of real dolls, and they talk to them, they dress them up. Just like the women with babies and that they put in car seats and mix up formula for them and everything.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about your boyfriend who lives on your phone.
Yes. I've learned there's a difference because someone had to explain to me about AI using, I still don't quite get that. It heats up water every time you put in an AI prompt. I don't quite get it. Yeah, the virtual boyfriends, which I have playing a game called Love in Deep Space. It's a video game, and they're not AI because they're pre-programmed. They have exact prompts that they say, so they're not making it up. I don't quite understand. Yes, they're virtual boyfriends. So Silas is my main, and Zane and Caleb. Yes, a dating sim. Yeah. Sim?
There's been dating sim games out there. The one that you have for your phone is a little bit more intricate than a lot of them. But dating sims have become very popular. There's a game out there literally called Date Anything.
And date the shower curtain, the toaster, and the microwave.
And it's basically you're in this house and literally everything in the house that you can find.
And celebrities have voiced the things that you can date.
Yeah.
Yes. And the one I have just updated, and they added a house that has The Sims in it. And I never played The Sims before. So now you can live in a house with your virtual boyfriends. So I don't know how to, since I never played The Sims, I don't know how to work the house or how to, you have to put furniture in there and plant things. I'm still learning how to do that. I just fight monsters with these guys. That's what I do with them because that's what the game is. But they've added that to it. So that's a thing I'm having to learn to do.
So let me play devil's advocate for
Okay.
just a moment. Now that we have the ability to have digital relationships, this is just an extension of online relationships where there's actually a real person on the other end of it.
Yeah.
And that's been going on for a while. I have friends I've literally never met in the flesh before.
Right.
Only ever seen them online. I would definitely call them friends because we interact online and we have similarities. And I've talked to some of these people live on the phone.
Video chat. And
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely that situation. But because of the fact that you now have digital replacements for friendship and intimate relationships, is that a good thing? That's the question. I guess that's the big question. Everybody just assumes that it's a bad thing. And in some cases, it definitely is because, for example, somebody got into a chat with GPT and said, I'm thinking about killing myself. And Chat GPT was like, maybe that's a good idea. You've obviously thought this through. And basically, after a conversation with Chat GPT, who, a lot of these chat bots are basically programmed to be encouraging.
Right.
So it encouraged this person to kill themselves. And they got sued for that.
Yep.
Also, we have this issue with the parasocial relationship where online you see somebody doing videos and you feel like there's a friendship there that there really isn't.
Right. Yes.
Because they're talking to you on the screen and you feel like they're talking directly to you.
Yes. To
Well, they're talking to a camera.
But that's nothing new.
Yeah.
That goes back to, that's a mental health diagnosis that they were diagnosed with royalty, back in King Henry days, King Henry II and stuff, that people would become obsessed with royalty because they made eye contact with them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're having a love affair and he knows that he can't give up his throne for me. And there's medical terms for it. So, yeah, that's not new. There are cases of that.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the way the human brain works. We are built to form groups. One-on-one, a large animal is going to take us out.
Yep.
But in groups, we will be able to survive. Our brains are wired this way. That's part of the reason why social media is as manipulative as it is. It plays on biological triggers for human beings. It simulates a lot of this stuff, even though it's not necessarily real. And as someone who owns a lot of vinyl records, I do believe that there are certain things that are just better in analog. Certainly I would prefer to do this podcast with you instead of doing it with a chat bot, obviously.
Yeah.
Even if it's a chat bot that's got your voice on it and you've programmed, obviously there's something.
It's just going to say the same things that I've said over and over.
Yeah.
Terrence Mann and Critters and over again.
There you go. Geek colored glasses.
Geek colored glasses.
If you listen to our other podcast, the Geek Watch podcast, you've heard that a bunch of times as well. But obviously to me, there are certain dangers to online relationships. For me, there are certain pieces of relationships that just work better when you're dealing with an actual person. A home cooked meal is always going to be better than a microwaved TV dinner. But now we've come to this situation as what is the issue then with communication between people? A lot of the problems we see with online relationships and different means of connection came to a head during COVID. One-on-one close relationships and developing relationships weren't possible. If you weren't in the house with somebody, you were by yourself. And if you were in the house with somebody, that was the only real relationship you had to work with. Everything else was either online or phone calls, and that was it. I mean, there was no personal situation. There was none of that going on. And I think we're still reaping the harm that did us. I mean, there was no way around it, obviously. We were in the middle of a pandemic. But I can definitely see how we haven't been able to do a reset. I think a lot of us are still rolling on this idea of having the majority of our relationships being online. A few weeks ago, as part of my research, I started learning about what's known as the Dunbar number. And this comes from an anthropologist by the name of Dunbar. He was studying primates and their relationships. And he discovered that because of certain different situations and indicators, for example, the size of the cerebral cortex, the ability to communicate, and the fact that you can't really be around everybody. And also that relationships are tiered. In other words, your relationship with your children is not the same as your relationship with your coworkers. They're not the relationship you have with your beer buddies, your gaming buddies, all of that, because that's in tier. What Dunbar was able to figure out is that there is a group of people that you can relate to and see as actual people. Outside of this circle, you can conceptualize people as people, but you don't really see them that way. For different primates, those circles are different sizes. Human beings, that Dunbar number hits at about 150 people. From your close family to your friends, to your coworkers, to the people you see on the street, around 150 people is about the size of a group of people that you can conceptualize as people.
And have space for.
Exactly. There's that old saying, the death of one person is a tragedy, the death of a million is a statistic.
Yep.
According to Dunbar, the line where people go from being people to a statistic is around 150. Outside of that, things become complicated. Because of that, that is one of the main reasons why human beings can be very tribal. It's also the reason why it's disturbingly easy for us as human beings that if someone does not feel and believe the same way that we do,
that we can cut them off.
That we can cut them off,
yep.
And we can think of them as not even human beings. If they don't go to my church or they didn't vote for the guy that I voted for president, can you even really say they're human beings? Yep. If you don't put them within your circle of 150 people, then no, you're not even going to think of them that way. And when you think of that, what started out as this rabbit hole is, why aren't kids having as much sex as apparently some people think they should be? It's turned into, why has everything gone to hell in a handbasket? And that has a lot to do with the fact that we are looking for relationships, not just sexual relationships, but close personal friendship relationships. We need those. I think you and I have talked about this before. A human's personal sanity is basically outsourced to the people around you. By yourself, you go insane.
Yeah.
You look at anybody who's ever been in solitary confinement, and it's literally driving somebody insane. If you do is isolate them from other people within a couple of months, it's horrendous what happens to the human mind in isolation. There are discussions about this, and you can see people who've written about it, people who've talked about their experiences. One guy that I read about had written about 6 months of solitary confinement that he was in. And within 2 months, he couldn't even tell the difference between near and far.
Yeah.
He was in a 6x6 cell, and by 2 months, he was like out in the middle of a field as far as he knew. He started hearing voices, and he thought that the floor was moving. He thought he wasn't in control of his own thoughts. We need other people to help keep us stable. I don't know how well AI is going to be able to do that, because when you have something that's programmed to say, hey, what you're thinking of, that's perfectly all right. it's like a candy bar. It looks like food, but nutritionally, it's actually worse for you. And I really do feel like AI, to some degree, if you're using it as a relationship supplement, there's a real problem because it makes you feel like you're in a relationship, but you're not. Because of that, I think it is risking making things a lot worse.
That's a yes.
Yeah. And so I really do feel that for us as human beings, we need to, and I'll use the language of the kids, that we need to start touching grass more,
Yeah.
I think. I'm not saying that we need to, you need to have as much sex as possible. I honestly feel that a good relationship that has that as a component is a good thing, with the right person. That's the thing. I can definitely tell you, as someone who has collected a few bad relationships, being in a intimate relationship with an abusive partner is not a good thing. It's better off not to be in a relationship and be by yourself than it is to, and that's regardless of, male or female.
Yeah.
You are better off not being in a relationship than you are being in a relationship with somebody who is abusive, who does not treat you well.
Yes.
It's just not a good thing. So for me, I would say I do feel that there is a need for us to start going more analog with our friendships, just because a one-on-one personal relationship with people, I think, ultimately is going to be more productive. But at the same time, and I say this directly to myself because as someone with ADHD, I am very much a people pleaser. Not everybody can be your friend, and you shouldn't treat people as, knowing that you've got 150 spots for everybody who's ever going to be a part of your life, especially in that inner circle, you need to be real picky about that. But that being said, I don't think a computer is going to replace it.
Keep ChatGTP. It's good for looking up, recipes or something, but yeah, don't go looking for advice.
Yeah. Don't go looking for advice, and certainly don't go looking for a friendship, because
Right.
that is the epitome of the parasocial relationship. It's seeing a friendship where there really isn't one, because all that ChatGPT is doing in that situation is they are simulating listening to you. They're not listening to a damn thing. They are using an algorithm to break down what you're saying and make the best guesstimate of what
Yep.
would seem like a reasonable thing to say back
There
to
are
you.
several seasons of Black Mirror that tell us about it, and there are many episodes of Twilight Zone telling us why it's a bad idea.
Yeah. So, with with the situation that I think it started before COVID, but COVID really brought it
Yeah.
to the fore with the isolation that we had to do for ourselves during the year and a half of COVID that we had to go through, and all of that situation, and how even though obviously COVID has not gone away, we are at least able to gather to some degree, but many of us have chosen not to. And you're seeing, I mean, again, with the fact that it is so much easier to get your hands on, digital replacements for all of that stuff, for from friendship all the way up to intimacy. Um, there's tons of online porn, and if you don't like that stuff, if you just rather make your own and put somebody's face on it that you recognize, that's a thing. And generative AI at this point, you can literally make anybody you want your boyfriend or your girlfriend with their voice and everything.
Yeah.
alive or dead. And yeah, the face,
Uncanny Valley.
yeah, it's definitely there. But, we get to a place where we don't, where, personal relationships have, gone by the wayside, and that's all that's left. Then, then you get to a place where it's like maybe you don't notice the difference, but you definitely know something's missing.
Yeah.
So, digital, man, it's go analog, kids.
Go
That's what I'm
analog.
saying. Analog friendships they're the bomb.
Get analog and go touch grass, kids.
Go touch grass. And so I think with that, we come to the end of this episode of the podcast. And I know that as we think about a lot of these things and go down some more rabbit holes, we'll definitely have some other things to talk about. So, but with that said, for Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all of you out there, to turn your life around, all you need to do is just turn that 1 degree. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Third Degree Podcast. Please remember, the opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organizations. The content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Any advice shared during the show should not be considered medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional for medical concerns or before making any health-related decisions. The Third Degree Podcast is a Hanging J production.